When we're focusing on squats, we want to make sure that we start by mobilizing and activating different muscles and joints in our body to give us the greatest range of motion and the best strength so we can get the best bang for our buck when we're lifting. So for squats, we're going to start at the C-spine, or in other words, our neck or our upper spine region. We can start by grabbing hands behind back and taking our neck through extremes of motion of flexion and extension. So looking down, chin to chest, eyes up at the ceiling. We can also do head looking over the shoulders, so looking from left to right. And mind you, while we're doing this, we're keeping our hands behind our back like so to try and emphasize keeping our spine a bit more neutral and to keep our shoulders back. After we complete looking left to right, we'll take ear to shoulder. And when you do this, try not to hike your shoulder up. Try to take your ear to your shoulder to feel that other side of the neck opening up and stretching a bit. And then we can finish this off by looking up and down into our armpit to get one last motion here in our C-spine. The second focus area for mobilizing when we're getting into squats is going to be the T-spine or the thoracic spine. Now to get started, you want to grab yourself a foam roller. A full length is great, but if you have a half length foam roller, that'll do just fine as well. Get yourself set up on the floor. Take yourself down to the ground, sit down on your butt, keep your knees bent here, so feet flat on the ground. And we're going to place that foam roller horizontally right at the bottom tip of our shoulder blades. So we're about midway down the spine probably. Now there's two ways that you can do this to mobilize your T-spine. The first way, and the way that I really like, is by taking a big yawn stretch and reaching back, bending and arching over top of the foam roller to maximize full extension through the spine, not just in the upper spine. So as you're doing this, you can look back, you can allow your head to come back down to the ground, you can allow your lower back to arch, but if this causes you unnecessary pain or discomfort, particularly in your low back or maybe in the neck, what you could do instead would be to cross your arms and use a little bit of tension in your abdomen to keep your lower trunk still and just do mini back bends over the top end, or in other words, the top half of your back, over the foam roller. As you're doing this, work your way further and further down so that you can mobilize different areas of that thoracic spine. Big exhales as you reach back to really maximize that extension. The third major area we want to mobilize when we're thinking about squatting is ankles. And for a lot of folks, this can be one of the biggest barriers to getting the greatest range of motion in their squats. So I have a few ways I'll show you how to mobilize your ankles. Way number one, if you bring yourself down into a single kneeling position down on the ground, you can use a pad to support your knee too to make sure that you're not bothering your knee down on the floor. And I'm going to show you with a dowel just to show you the line and the direction you want to send your leg when you're doing this exercise. We're going to focusing on mobilizing this joint right here, and particularly we want to try and focus on getting our knee past our toes. Contrary to popular belief, driving your knee past your toes in a squat or even practicing for a squat, totally safe, totally fine. What we want to try and avoid is pressure, undue pressure at the knee or pain at the knee. And so if you're experiencing that, back off of it. So what we'll do to start, if you take it down and you place it at about your middle toe or your third toe, you're going to try and keep your heel down on the ground at a nice 90-degree angle here of knee bend, and take that knee outside of the dowel. So sending your knee out toward, like, let's say your fifth toe or your fourth toe, all while keeping your heel down on the ground. And you're going to try and maximize how far forward you can bring that knee. And so what you'll notice is that that angle here at the ankle is closing in, getting smaller and smaller. And as I come back, it comes back to that nice 90-degree bend. During a squat, at the very bottom of your squat, your knees do have a tendency to drive forward a bit. And in most folks, if that's holding them back, if ankle mobility is holding them back, they're not going to be able to get much lower than, let's say, maybe parallel or slightly higher than parallel femurs to the ground. And so these ankle exercises are going to help you get just a little bit more depth in your squat. Now there is another way we can do this too. Instead of using the dowel, if you grab a kettlebell or something with a little bit of weight to it, as long as you can do this safely, again, make sure that you're always protecting yourself and doing things safely. If you set up with your knee out to the side, so I'm going to be at kind of like a 90-degree angle here, but with my leg out to the side this way, and focus on the same idea. Just allowing that weight to kind of sink down into my leg, sending my knee past my toes, and trying to reach more toward like my fourth and my fifth toe. So my knee kind of goes outward instead of straight forward. This is another great way to increase that angle at the ankle so that you have better range of motion in your squat. Fourth area we can focus on for mobilizing in our squat is our hips, and particularly some of the muscles that are attaching into the hip. So if you get set up down on the ground in a bent knee position or like a tabletop position like so, take your big toes, bring them closer together, take your knees and widen them out a bit. We're gonna try some rough backs. And so in this motion, what we're focusing on doing is gliding our body straight back. Instead of just simply plopping our butt down on our heels like this, we're gonna actively use our muscles to try and pry our body backwards. You can even use your hands a bit here to push back as well. And what you should feel are the muscles on the inner thigh, they have some tension in them, but they're really getting a nice big stretch here as you're moving back. And what this is also going to help promote is space in the hips, particularly if you're actively using your legs to pry out apart as you're sinking your hips back. Now we've got another exercise we can do for this as well that's a little bit more active. We'll talk about that in the next cycle of exercises here. Right now, just focusing on mobilizing. After this, we'll focus on activating those muscles a bit more. Now, whether you get started using the foam roller or whether you're finishing up right now using the foam roller, the fifth area we want to address is actually a few different areas, but we're going to use this foam roller to actually mobilize those muscles. And so we're going to start at the lower part of the chain. So we're going to start all the way down at the calf. To get set up for this, you can put either both of your calves on the foam roller, one at a time, or maybe even if you need more resistance, so this will be a little bit more uncomfortable, you can put one leg on top of the other. To roll your calf, use the support of your upper body here to make sure that you can get some leverage over top of that foam roller. Allow your muscle to actually sink down into that foam roller. And if you find an area that's tender, you have two options. One can be just sit there for a few seconds, take a few deep breaths in and out. After that, you can move on. Or number two, and this is a little bit more difficult and a little bit more intense, you can pump that ankle as a way to floss that muscle on top of the foam roller. And the result is when you're compressing that muscle and you're sliding it over top, it's gonna be a bit uncomfortable, but it's gonna unlock more range of motion for you in your squat. Now the second area we wanna address would be our quads. And so if we shift gears here and we focus on now being in a belly down position, we can do either both legs at once or one leg at a time. I'm gonna show you one leg at a time here just to give you the max benefit. If you can tolerate being on one leg, use your other leg and your arms for support here. Stay in a belly facing down position, but make sure that you're using a bit of core strength here or using some trunk stability to keep your body from arching or otherwise losing your integrity in this position. Now, same idea as with the calves. If you find a spot that's tender, you can either hold it or you can take your knee in and out of flexion and extension. So bend that knee, bring that heel all the way as close as you can to the butt and extend back out. Again, the more pressure you can apply onto that leg, let's say if I can lift my other leg off the ground or use it for partial support, I can get a greater effect on my range of motion because I'm compressing more of that muscle. This is a very large muscle group, so make sure that you're spending plenty of time working your way through your quads, everything from above the kneecap to below the pelvic bones. Now the third major area that we want to try and hit here with the foam roller is going to be our glutes. And you can do this area by sitting on top of the foam roller but leaning to one side. So if I'm focusing on rolling out my right glute, which is closest right now to the camera, I'm going to shift my body weight to the right side. I'm going to use the support of my left leg and my other free arm here. For added effect, I can cross that leg over in a figure four like this, or I can just simply leave it out straight like this. Same deal as before. When you find tender spots, either hold them and breathe through them, or you can cross that leg over, do a couple rolls, uncross it, do a couple more rolls. That way the muscle can come on tension and out of tension. You can get the greatest range of motion in your squat.
All right, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and stay tuned for more.